No. So here it is. Slideshow. All right. So one of the major aspects of human health would be this particular phase of adolescence, drug and alcohol abuse. Even though it's quite not seriously taken by the youth, but it's a really big problem. So in the last class, we studied about cancer and we studied the ways of treatment of cancer also. So today we have to start from here and let's do this. So drugs, smoking, and alcohol abuse. So what is a drug basically? By by the government or by the International Drug Control Board, what they say is anything that has no medical application, which has no medical benefits, and it is prone to lead to addiction. It has to lead to addiction and it should not have any medical use. So that can be considered as a drug. Now, many of the drug abusers, they do not actually begin as a hardcore drug users. It all starts from a curiosity. So when it starts from a curiosity, so the curiosity is uh, because of the experiences they listen to the people who have already tried. So that makes them more okay. Let's see what happens. So that is the way every most of the people start using it. So they might start from any point, but many of the times they have a gateway drug. For example, it starts from alcohol, or it starts from marijuana, or it starts from using meth or using in any other drugs. So when you do that, so basically what happens is it opens up to a gateway of trying and becoming more experimental with yourself, your mind and body, on more than different one substances. You started with one and you end up going trying different things. So that is the dangers of drug addiction. So many of the people, they take addiction to a very silly point. It's very silly. It's addiction. It's nothing big, but it is very serious. Why addiction is very serious? Let us take an example. The coffee you drink is very addictive. Why? Because you put sugar in that. So the when you take sugar in your coffee, the sugar you drink is almost 8 times addictive than cocaine. So now try taking the sugar for 15 days or 20 days. What happens to your body? What happens to our body is our body goes into a very bad state of this craving. You see, so it goes into this craving where your body wants it more and more, and you start experiencing headaches, you start experiencing withdrawal, and you start experiencing sugar craving, what you call it as. I have a craving for chocolates. Maybe when you're in hostel and suddenly you go back home, and suddenly you come back to hostel, you get that few days of difficulty because you have sugar craving. You're not able to consume a lot of chocolates or sweets. So that is addiction. So when you talk about these drugs, the drugs cause a very severe addiction, and some drugs, in their absence, they give headaches, they have mood swings, they have behavioral changes. Okay, so all those things. So let us talk about some of the drugs that are in our surroundings that can lead to addiction and abuse. Okay, so the first one, most commonly used drugs come in this category: opioids, cannabinoids, and coca alkaloids. So these are the most commonly used drugs. Now, when we talk about our opioids are a kind of a drug that target the central nervous systems and gastrointestinal tract, okay, of humans. So these opioids can be opium, morphine, heroin, or brown sugar. So when you take these opioids, well, basically what the feeling is more of euphoria. The person will be in euphoria, like everything is so perfect or something like that, and is an exceptional painkiller. So that's why morphine is used in many of the surgeries to block the pain receptions, so that the surgery or the patient can recover as well as undergo surgery. So it's a very efficient painkiller. So it is known to kill pain. So now how is the extraction? Where do we find this morphine? Morphine is extracted from a plant part called as a poppy plant. So the poppy plant gives rise to this papaver. It gives rise to this poppy pods. Okay, so in this pods, what happens is you cut the buds of this poppy in a razor blade. So now what happens is a milky white latex starts dropping out of this poppy. So collecting this, and then they further process it, and it becomes what is regularly used in North India as opium. So, and then from opium, you just further extract morphine or heroin. Okay. So if you take the latex of the poppy plant, so you can extract morphine. So the role of why the people use this is because if it is a sedative, it will put in sedation. Okay, like you don't have any reception. Next one is it's a painkiller and it is very useful in surgery. So heroin is also a derivative of this opioid, and it is also called as diacetyl morphine. When you take morphine and you do diacetylation, or you do acetylation of morphine, you get diacetyl morphine. So that is the name of heroin. Heroin is called as diacetyl morphine. So this is a very, very dangerous drug. Like it comes in one of the top-notch worst drugs. Heroin is white, odorless, and bitter crystalline compound. So basically, whenever this heroin is ingested, a person goes into this tremendous amount of euphoria, and actually, as the drug gets into the system, they go more depressant. They'll become very slow, very depressed, and very unique behavior, isolated behavior they have. Okay, and it also slows down body functions. So people usually knock themselves out for several days using heroin, and it is not okay. Why? Because it is very, very addictive, and the withdrawal symptoms, whenever there is absence of heroin, you go into severe withdrawal symptoms that can be life threatening. Okay, even though you want to quit addiction, you will go through withdrawal. That is, oh, I'm not able to live without it. Okay, and your body asks for it more. So that is called as withdrawal symptoms. And that is about heroin. So what are the facts that we have to remember about heroin? It's a depressant. It is also called as diacetyl morphine. It's white, odorless, bitter crystalline compound. So by acetylation of morphine, you get diacetyl morphine. It is either done by snorting like this, or it is done by injection, where they burn this, make it into a liquid, and take it in the veins. So it's a depressant. So that is the overall outcome of it. So this is about opioids. So in opioids, we studied about opium, which actually targets CNS or gastrointestinal tract. And under opioid categories, we studied about morphine, heroin, and brown sugar. So sedative, painkiller, and it is used for surgery. Okay, and it is extracted from poppy plant. And the name of the poppy plant is also Papaver seminiferum. Okay, Papaver seminiferum is the scientific name. Understood. Next one is cannabinoids. So cannabis is a very traditionally used plants for several generations. So that's what happens usually when it comes to drug addiction or the category of drugs. So when we talk about cannabis or cannabis plant, you can see that in many of the cultures, it is used as a taboo to consume cannabis on some very unique occasions, right? So it is found in our country also. It is found, in several of the Asian countries or worldwide. So what is this cannabinoids? Cannabis is a plant. So the flower of this plant is smoked, or it is consumed in the form of buttermilk, or it is consumed in the form of a raisin. Okay. So when it is ingested, it basically targets the cannabinoid receptors which are present in the brain. So these receptors, when they're bound by these tetrahydrocannabinoids, which we call it as THC. So there are THC receptors in the brain. So tetrahydrocannabinoids, which are the chemical compounds that are present in the cannabis plant, they go and bind to the receptors in the brain, and then they start, giving you a different experience. What is a different experience of cannabinoids? Cannabinoids actually leads to dilation of time. So time becomes very slow, and the people will be going under this different kind of psychological experience when they consume. So they're thinking about a lot, or they become very slow for some time. Sometimes they're very hungry. So these are some of the symptoms of cannabis smokers. Okay, what you can identify from them. Okay, and what part of a cannabis plant is used? The inflorescence. So that you can see here, the inflorescence of the cannabis bud is used. And usual plants, that is two categories of cannabis plants are used. One is cannabis sativa and cannabis indica. So cannabis sativa is one variety of cannabis plant, and cannabis indica is another type of cannabis plant. Based on its geographical location, we have them. So the cannabis flower tops or the leaves and the resin are usually used for what we call, it is used as for the production of marijuana, that is the flowers, hashish, here it is, charas and ganja. Okay. So what is the effect of cannabis? They target the cardiovascular system. So usually people will have palpation of heart, so their blood circulations become more. Some of the sports and athletes, usually they're known to abuse cannabis, and many of the people, okay, who are into hardcore lifestyle, they use this cannabis. Reason is it is also considered as an anti-inflammatory. Okay, fine. So next one is cocaine, and cocaine is obtained from erythroxylum coca. Okay, so it's a very popular drug that has been abused in many parts of the world, and it is quite less in our country because of the availability, probably. Okay, so usually the cocaine is high in South America, Cuba, Mexico. Okay, so what they do is they snort cocaine, and it stimulates the central nervous system into euphoria. Like you feel that everything is beautiful and perfect, and you have very high confidence and high increased energy. And this kind of confidence and energy is not at all good, because you end up doing some stupid things, and it's very dangerous. Why? Because cocaine, there is one unique character about cocaine. Cocaine is addictive, but okay, and basically it has no side effects. When you leave the drug, you get some symptoms called as withdrawal symptoms. So when you don't have the drug, you go under withdrawal symptoms, where your body starts asking for it in the form of headaches, vomiting, lack of appetite, loss of weight, lack of interest, personality disorder, etc. See, there are so many after effects of this. Even though you don't have the side effects of the drug, but you have withdrawal symptoms, you need it. When you are on it, you don't get any effects on your body. But when you leave it, your body asks for it in a very weird sense. So which is called as withdrawal symptoms, which can be deadly. Understood? So the cocaine is extracted from erythroxylum coca, which is a plant, and they convert it into white powder. So when it is snorted, it is usually stimulating CNS, producing that is central nervous system, which causes euphoria. Okay. So when you are high on cocaine, like too much OD, we call it as overdose, it causes hallucinations. You find to see the things that you uh, like it's not there, you feel like it is there. So that is called as hallucination. So I ate ropa, okay, and then datura, they're also hallucinogenic plants. So datura is also being used in northeastern parts of India, and it's very poisonous plant. It is known for its deadly toxic nature, but yet people consume this. And if you're known to consume a little bit more or little bit less, you're known to die. Okay, you're experienced to die. But in northeastern India, there is a tribe and there's a custom. For many years, these people have been consuming and they don't die. Okay, I mean to say that they have the resistance for this datura because of their custom, or or the traditions. Another type of hallucinogenic plants comes LSD, and mushrooms. So when you talk about hallucinogenic like atropa, datura, LSD, mushrooms, and salvia, okay, so they are actually, even marijuana comes under psychedelic or psychoactive substances, but it's not a hallucinogen. Hallucinogenic drugs are LSD, mushrooms, or salvia, or datura, atropa. So when you consume this, people go under a very different experience. Some are known to dissolve the perception of time, visual, and auditory senses. So because of this dissolution, people are known to feel more universally connected, or they feel that highly spiritual or whatever it is. So that's why it's been used in many of the customs and tribal cultures or ancient cultures. Okay, so they have a different value, and there is always a fight between regulation and not regulating this. but it is scheduled as drugs and it is very dangerous for the usage. Okay. Chalo. So another category of drugs like barbiturates, amphetamines, okay, benzodiazepines, etc. So these are all different drugs that are used as medications, but they're abused as painkillers, okay, antidepressants, etc. See, for example, for mental illnesses, we use depressants, antidepressants, and anti-insomnia medication. But people take this for recreation and they abuse it. Okay, so when you do it more, usually you go into physiological or psychological functions. Impairment will happen. Okay, you'll become mad. So that's why you should not supposed to use these drugs, especially without prescription, or when you don't have the use about it, don't abuse it. Okay, so coming to smoking, the most dangerous part of a human's habit is smoking. Why? Because smoking is so carcinogenic compared to many of the drug abusing categories. It's very dangerous to smoke. So tobacco is being used as a recreational or it is used as a cultural thing. If you see in Mexican cultures, probably the use of tobacco is very, very old, like ancient Indian cultures and all that. So now human beings started cultivating for it around 400 years ago. So it is a leaf that is either rolled and smoked, okay, and it's also used as a snuff. So it has many chemicals like nicotine, okay, which is an alkaloid, which stimulates the adrenal gland, and you get that pump, okay, or freshness, or noradrenaline, causing the high blood pressure and heart rate. So when this is done, usually what happens is the modern cigarettes that we get, they are filled with a lot of carcinogens. So it leads to an addiction problem, and then you keep on smoking for a very long period of time or more number of cigarettes. So that will lead to accumulation of tar. So if you look at the cigarettes that the people smoke, usually there are certain lines on the cigarettes you can just observe. Okay, so these are petroleum linings. So when you burn petroleum, it learns tar. So and even the tobacco that is in there, it leads to accumulation of tar. So your lungs, like from this, it becomes like this. So it leads to emphysema, like your lungs cannot expand, you cannot breathe properly. So when you don't have that, usually the number of people dying of lung cancer is less. I'll tell you this fact. What happens when people smoke cigarettes is it leads to another diseases, okay, such as it affects your urinary bladder, it affects your throat, it affects your lungs with emphysema, you can get bronchitis, coronary heart disease. Having a risk of heart attack due to smoking is very, very high compared to that of lung cancer. So people who smoke, they, even though they don't die of cancer, they'll definitely die of heart attack. That's for sure. Okay. So it also leads to gastric ulcers. So this is so many bad things about cigarettes. Okay. So it happens with one and it leads to addiction. That's why addiction is a bigger problem. Understood? So addiction is a problem. If you beat addiction, then there is no problem with any other substance. Okay. So it leads to oral cancer also whenever the tobacco is chewed in the form of the things that we get in the market. Okay. And also, whenever we take cigarettes, it usually leads to carbon monoxide poisoning. Basically, because of the burning of the cigarette, it leads to accumulation of carbon monoxide. Our red blood cells, they have high affinity towards carbon monoxide than oxygen. So once the carbon monoxide binds to your red blood cells, it will never getting go off it. So that means your red blood cells is dead. So that is why it leads to oxygen deficiency in our body and leads to weakness, loss of weight, okay, etc. Understood? So this is about tobacco. Now, coming to adolescence and drug abuse and alcohol abuse, do you guys have any doubts till now? The students have doubt? Come on, students, are you listening? Is my voice audible? Yes, perfect. Okay, can we move on? We'll start with adolescence and drug abuse, right? So let's see. See, what you have to remember is very sorry. What you have to remember is very, very important. So that is why, look here. When we talk about this topic, there are certain important things that you have to just concentrate on. Examples of drugs under for example, opioids are extracted from papaver, right? So seminiferum, so that is important. Erythroxylum sativa is important. Cannabis indica or cannabis sativa is important. Okay, names of hallucinogen such as LSD and mushroom and salvia, datura. Okay, the picture of the datura is also important. So just go through this and look at the examples of pictures or the names of the drugs like barbiturates, amphetamines, and benzodiazepines. What category they fall into? You can't put any drug in any category, right? You can't write cocaine for depression. It doesn't work like that. So that is why you have to remember the examples. So whenever they asked about benzodiazepines or amphetamines, what category they belong to? Antidepressants. Okay, as simple as that. So similarly, you have to just make sure about it. Okay. So let's go for adolescence and drug abuse. Okay. When we talk about adolescence, it's a very weird period of time. Okay. Why it is a very weird period of time? It is very normal, but the thing is we become from not human, not alien. I know that it is very wrong to tell this, but we have to take it in a very funny and very positive way to beat this adolescence. In this age you can become whatever you want, and you can really mold your senses, your body, your personality, everything can be molded. Okay, how strong you are, on the other side you become so weak also. Weak in the sense, not like in any other sense, but in what sense you become weak is you're very prone to do some stupid things. Okay, and I know I should call it stupid because it's not serious, because of your state of mind, such as either you want to do it for curiosity or for a joke or for to build up this manliness or your feminine behaviors, anything. It's a behavior is a behavior. When you do these things, it will lead to certain things that your mind will convince you to do some things. Okay, so that is when adolescence becomes a very unique period where you are hyperactive in most of the things, in your thoughts, in your things, everything. So that is why it's a normal period. So what is adolescence? Whenever the the child goes into a transition of becoming a man or a woman. Okay, a child always have this transition period. See, when you're born, you will start learning how to walk, how to eat, whom to call mom, dad, and you'll understand your culture, you'll understanding your surroundings, etc. Correct, right? And as you finish this stage, your body also goes into changes of maturity, and your body is going under physical changes. With physical changes, you go under psychological development and mental development also. Your brain and thoughts are maturing at a very faster rate. Okay, your body is also maturing at a very faster rate. So with this constant amount of change that is going on and this mixed thoughts that is coming in your head, you are very fragile and you are doing so many different things. Okay, so that can be either fall in good or bad category. Okay, so this period of time is very vulnerable, and for you or for us, everybody. Okay, it is around 12 to 18 years of age. Okay, I can tell you that this is the best time of your life. Only thing is you have to just accept good things about it, and motivate your life into a betterment. So it's a vulnerable phase basically, for both mental and psychological development. So that leads to a lot of exposure. I told you, right? So whenever you people are into adolescence, so now what happens is, either for this macho feeling, or either for this curiosity, either because you are scientifically tempered and you want to become experimental with this. It reasons can be anything. It can come across any reasons, and those decisions are taken because you are so vulnerable, because you don't give yourself time to understand, study, research, and accept the facts. You don't believe. Okay, simply you don't believe that. So that is why you don't have the patience and you end up doing things. So when you do that, usually there are certain changes that you can observe in your surroundings, your friends, your classmates, the people you know, so who are of the same age group. You can just observe yourself as well. What is happening with me? Why am I doing a particular thing? Am I curious about it, or am I experimentation about it? So because of the curious or experimentation, you end up doing things that you're not supposed to do. Hey, what will happen? Nothing will happen. This is just one times, two times. So it's curiosity. Or what will happen? Let's see, that is experimentation. When you do that, or all this for adventure and excitement. And sometimes you people feel that, okay, I have the world's most biggest problem, which is not really true. I don't tell that you don't have problems. Everybody has problems. That is the reality. So when you have a problem, every problem can look big. Okay, even when I was at your stage, okay, or now where I am, when I have a problem, for me that problem is looking big even now. So this the situation of this not having a problem does not go in our life. I don't know, that is some kind of weird thing, but it does not go. Because of that, you think that, okay, I have a problem, I need to escape the reality and let me go into do something stupid. Okay, either you get depressed, either you pick up habits, either you make bad company with bad friends, or influencing friends, or peer pressures. So you go to that and you face problems, right? You end up in problems. Eventually you might think that it's not going to lead problems, it doesn't matter. One time your thoughts will change, like, okay, I need to maintain my body and mind, why am I doing this, I should be more academical, I should focus on development. So all the things will hit you and you'll feel regret. So that's why it's better to understand that problems are not a unique thing for you, it's for everybody. So it's not a solution what you're looking for. Next one is, you have a lot of stress to become excellent in your life. Of course, whether it is yourself or whether it is coming from the external factors, this stress is there. Whether you yourself want to become, I want to always achieve, I want to be the best in sports or academics, and or you're just feeling that, okay, well, I'm trying so much but I'm not able to bring it in my memory, I'm not able to score as such, somewhere I'm going missing, so I do studies is not for me, something, some weird thoughts might come, where it might demotivate you when it comes to this, that age group where you're failing and you are so vulnerable for the people looking at you and all that things. So at that point, it's all right. It's not same for everybody. Again, intelligence is something, how the development of interest happen is something, and how do you memorize, is also a complex process. So it's not just your thoughts that can fix everything. There are so many factors around you, so you have to balance it. So the best thing that you can do is believe in the process, just take one step at a time and have patience in achieving your goals, so that will be beautiful. And pick up proper habits such as exercise and daily routines, do the same things on and on, so which gives you more persistence and discipline. So that is very good. Okay, so, and don't get influenced by this television, movies, news, paper, internet. So this mimicry of a lifestyle has led to so much of loss of human behavior. Like, I don't know, like, whether it is right term or wrong term, but when you look at it, there are certain things that has to be considered and there are certain things that is not okay. It's not everything happens like we see in the movies or the internet. So the reality is a little bit different, and if you accept and go for the simpler lifestyle, it becomes so easy for everybody. Okay, and as well as you. Next one is, one of the more important causes is, if you have unstable and unsupportive family members. See, for example, uh, domestic violence has become one of the major problems for the people to fall into the category of using drugs. That is when you have to just look for somebody somewhere to open up your pain, where you feel safer. For example, it cannot be just a human being. You just tell to a dog, okay, you just meditate and just take time out. Build some positive ways to let go of your problems and let go of your thoughts which are bothering you so much. One of the major thing is your family, or the where you come from. So when you divert yourself into better things, and when you find a source to tell your problems to it, for example, god and spirituality, or reading books, or writing your own journal, and motivating yourself into a positive direction, so that will you know lead to lead you to not to get into these situations. Okay, so but these are the causes why an individual becomes a drug addict, okay, or get into drugs. You understood curiosity, need for adventure, escaping problems, and then stress to excel, and then you have influenced by internet and television. And then you have your family who is not supportive. Okay, next one, what is an addiction? Now this is a term you need to understand. So when we talk about anything like addiction, right? So we have two things that we have to categorize it into. First thing is, when we talk about addiction, it has to lead to certain kind of a physiological change or a psychological attachment in your body. So without it, you will feel that uh, everything is not going right. You could have done things better, etc. Okay, you feel that euphoria is better. It's better to be in that same euphoric situation. So that will tamper away all the natural feelings. So that is when I feel good. So that attachment is there, right? That is called as an addiction. Okay, so that leads to, for example, if anybody is using a certain kind of a drug or a certain kind of a substance to feel better, let's say that they are trying once per day was sufficient for a week. Now it goes twice a week. Then it goes two times a day, or one time a day. Then two times a day, or three times a day. So this repeated usage causes something called as tolerance. So tolerance is something where people actually they build this. For example, take let's take any cigarette. So you take one cigarette, it's too much. Then even if you take 10 cigarettes, there is nothing happening. That is called as building tolerance. So the receptors in the brain actually they come saturated, and they crave for more and more of this substance to feel that same effect. So that is what is the effect of addiction. So it leads to high tolerance. High tolerance leads to higher doses. Higher doses leads to greater problems. Okay. So that lead to a very severe problem of addiction. Addictions is not good. Okay. Another one important term that I was talking about is dependency. What is dependency? There is this, your brain is a bigger enemy, because it will start manifesting this reality. It will make you believe that only in the presence of this particular substance that I shall do my work better, I shall feel better, otherwise I'll be unpleasant, my situation will not get better. So this is called as dependency. Okay, if I take this drug, I might perform well. If I do these things, I might sleep well. So this is called as dependency, a psychological tendency to believe that you will be better when you're on high. Okay, so that is manifestation of it. So whenever you are having certain problem of addiction and dependency, another worst thing comes, that is withdrawal symptoms. What is withdrawal symptoms? So many of the people, let us say that the people who are addicted to heroin, which is very, very bad. As I told you, heroin is having the worst addiction. So let's say that there is people addicted to heroin. What is the problem they face? So they want to leave the drug. Why are they not able to leave the drug? That's where the withdrawal symptoms comes. So while using the drug, you might not feel, okay, it's not affecting me, I'm a human, so there is nothing happening to my body. But after some time, what happens when you withdraw it, or when the person is not having the hands on these drugs anymore, so that will lead to a severe physiological and psychological changes in your body, that leads to a lot of fever, body pain, social withdrawal, adjustment problems, behavioral problems. You lose your personality disorders, such as there is called depersonalization disorder. Recently, they're just terms. You feel shakiness, and there is no steadiness in your thing. There's a lot of weakness in your muscle and body. You see, the list goes on and on and on, for the amount of symptoms that you are going to pick up when you don't have the substance, which comes as withdrawal syndrome. Withdrawal syndrome is very severe. So it depends from one drug to another drug. So as the withdrawal symptoms gets more and more severe, it can lead to death. So that's why the people have to go to these de-addiction centers, okay, where they go through medications and leave it on a progressive level. So it takes months for many of the drugs to come out of this addiction. Okay, again, one more use, one time again they use it, again and they're in the same cycle. You see, it's so easy to become an addict than to leave the drug. So that is why it's always prescribed that prevention is better than cure, and you have to have your thoughts sorted and not take it as an option, because a small decisions of curiosity and monkeyness, and you just don't care kind of an attitude, can lead to a lot of consequences, a chain of consequences that you have to face unnecessarily in your life. Okay, so what are the effects of drug and alcohol abuse? What happens? So basically, this drug and alcohol abuse, the worst places that you can see is when a pregnant woman is addicted to drugs. So when pregnant women are addicted to drugs, it leads to something called as fetal alcohol syndrome, or FAS. So usually it happens to the female who drinks alcohol when she's pregnant and use drugs. So that leads to fetal alcohol syndrome. So usually the babies which are born who had not done any wrong, or they never made choices of these drugs or alcohol or any smoking, so these kids have to suffer these effects, such as they have the low nasal bridge. Okay, nose is very small ear, minor ear. Okay, then you have epicanthal folds. Then we have palpebral fissures. Okay, mad mid stage, short nose, microgua, loss of sexual drive, and necrospermia. All this happens to a child, okay, because of the parents choices. Okay, so this is called as fetal alcohol syndrome. So basically many of the athletes, they misuse this narcotics, okay, analgetics. Then we have anabolics, steroids, or diuretics. For example, bodybuilders, naturally or physiologically, we are supposed to build a certain muscles using our food that is in the surrounding, and do a regular exercise. But now the sports industry has gone to certain extent that not only bodybuilders, we have football players, we have basketball players, and we have so many athletes in different sports that abuse these different drugs for enhancing their sports. It is called as sports enhancement drugs. It's called as SCDs. Okay, hold on. Yeah, which are called as SCDs, okay, or sports or enhancement drugs, or performance enhancement drugs, which are also called as PEDs. So these drugs are quite dangerous. You might have heard about so many news, like some of the bodybuilders or some of the famous personalities who died of heart attacks, okay, because of their bodybuilding habits, right? So that is when the steroidal problems or performance enhancing drug problems comes. Okay, so now what are the warning signs of drug and alcohol abuse? How do you find out if people are on drugs or alcohol abuse? So it's very simple, that you have to give an attention to these people if you like them, and try to observe and help them. Okay, basically they stop giving interest in studies, and they start bunking classes, and they don't think that it is very important to give time for studies and learn things. Okay, next one, they don't give a too much attention to their personal hygiene, or the things they keep. They're very disordered, so they don't want to involve with normal crowd. Everything feels boring for them, so they go into withdrawal or isolation, or pick up their own group of people. So mostly they suffer from depression, tiredness, that is fatigue, and then suddenly they get angry. Suddenly their mood swings, and you see their different kind of faces, and their rebellious behavior. Okay. Next one, they have a severe sleeping and eating habits. Maybe they don't sleep the whole night, and then they continue the next day, and then you can see them losing a lot of sleep, or they're not eating at all. They're becoming very weak. Okay, so the weight changes very abruptly. Either they become very thin, they're weak of appetite. Okay, and the pigmentation is also changing in their face and body. Loss of interest in hobbies. They might be very good athletes. They might be very good in sports, or working out, gym, or paintings, or music, anything. So they give it up on that, and they withdraw from that also. Now, deteriorating relationship between family and friends. You might not be the same friend anymore. You can see the changes in your friends. He might be acting more rebellious. He might be acting more weird than what he used to do. So all these signs can picked up as warning signs for these things, and you have to really take care of these information. I'll not ruin everything. Just go and try to help them, talk to them, be a good friend, understand what's your problem, give more company. So all these things can become better, and try to motivate them into positive direction, bring them back to their habits, hobbies. Okay, and then keep them motivated. So like that, you can encourage your friends from beating these habits, rather than so looking at him in a very different perspective. Now, as I told you about performance enhancing drugs, one of the important drugs that are being abused by the youth is steroidal based drug. It is so dangerous, even though we feel that, oh, nobody uses. Who uses it? Trust me, I've seen so many of the people who have come across, who by accident, even though knowing it, by just, the gym people will tell you, you want to gain muscle, you want to increase your muscle mass, so take this tablet. You know this, you have studied in your class 12. Again, people end up doing it in the later phase of their life. So that is, they don't see on the slip whether it is anabolic steroids, catabolic steroids. There are two types of steroids. Huh? Anabolic steroids are something that construct your muscles. So it is given anabolic steroids, this micro mg. So it pop a pill, nothing will happen. Trust me, these are the side effects of taking a steroids. So first one is acne. A lot of acne comes on the face. You will be like increased aggression. You can see bodybuilders, somebody they're very aggressive. Mood swings and depression you cannot have. And then you have normal sperm, reduced testicles, decreased sperm production, kidney and liver dysfunction. Okay, then we have enlargement of prostate glands. Okay, you can see here the development of you can see that in females, basically in males, you can see that there is a development of a breast kind of structure. Okay, so these are all the side effects of anabolic steroids in males. Look at in females. Females are also nowadays motivated to build more muscles, so that they end up taking steroids. So when they take steroids, now what happens? Females should have a very low levels of testosterone, so they end up pumping up more estrogen for more muscle mass. So that leads to breast enlargement. Okay, premature baldness. Next, they have enlargement of a prostate gland. Then masculization. They become more manly. Their voice becomes more rough, and they become more muscular. Mood swings, and then they have depression. Excessive hair on face and body, so they start getting mustache and beard sometimes. Abnormal menstrual cycles, deepening of voice, enlargement of clitoris. So these are some of the effects of anabolic steroids on females. So it's not at all recommended to take steroids because it's so dangerous. It always leads to cardiovascular problems. And you know what happens? The walls of the heart becomes thick. So when it becomes thick, it leads to abnormality in the heart function. So the cardiac output becomes less, and that leads to mimicry of heart attack kind of a situation in the beginning, and later on it leads to the heart attack. Okay, so myocardial infarction, in other words. So that happens. So that's why say no to steroids at any point of time. Next one, prevention and control. When it comes to prevention and control of the drug, first one is avoid peer pressure just to make yourself look cool or to get into a gang that you don't belong to. Doesn't mean that you have to do that. So avoid peer pressure. Don't let your friends take control of your thoughts, and consider education and counseling as a priority. Understand the importance of why addiction and dependency is very big problem. Then it's a joke. It's not a joke. It's a very serious problem. So that's why you have to educate yourself, and you have to take proper counseling from proper people whom you trust, and seek medical help without any shame. Next one is if you're close to your parents, please seek from your parents. Your parents are the best ones to help you. They will always try to make sure that you come out of the situation. And your friends are such who you're seeking the help should be in such a way that they go to an extent where they help you come out of the situation rather than put you into worse things. So that's why I would suggest you pick up your parents. Parents are the best. Sometimes it can be pressure situation telling parents. You can talk to your mentors, or you can talk to the doctors you trust. Okay, they can help you. Now look for the dangerous signs within you as well as your surroundings. So you can understand that you're going out of the limits. So listen to your body and mind, listen to the surroundings, and as well as look at your friends who are going through the same thing. Okay, always seek professional help. Don't go to some misguided centers for de-addiction, or suggest somebody to go to de-addiction center without your knowledge. So that's why we need a professional help to get rid of this. Okay, so such as you can go to psychologists or psychiatrists, okay, or de-addiction centers or rehabilitation programs. So this is about prevention and control. All right, students, we come to the end of this chapter, human health and disease. So tell me if you have any doubts. I'll be here. If you have any doubts, you can just leave a message. We can talk about it in any part of this chapter. If you don't have any doubts, you can leave the class. In the next class, we'll start the new chapter.